Hello there. Thank you so much for joining us. This is News Channel Nebraska. My name's Eric McKay. Let's take a look at our top headlines today. Beginning with what's been a whirlwind couple of days for President Trump's global trade agenda. In back-to-back rulings, a federal court blocked most of Trump's sweeping tariffs. Then an appeals court stayed the lower court's ruling, temporarily restoring Trump's ability to levy the tariffs. Reed Binion has more.
Just heard the news, they've stayed the order of the court.
Peter Navarro, President Donald Trump's top trade advisor, reacting to a federal appeals court decision to pause an earlier ruling that blocked the bulk of Trump's tariffs.
We'll go, obviously, to the appeals court and, if necessary, up the chain from there.
On Wednesday, the U.S. Court of International Trade ruled Trump didn't have the authority to impose many of the sweeping tariffs in the manner that he did. The Trump administration immediately appealed. The appeals court stayed the ruling, temporarily restoring Trump's ability to impose tariffs using the emergency powers he declared earlier this year. Both sides must now give the appeals court written arguments on the question of the blocking of the tariffs. In a lengthy social media post, Trump slammed the lower court ruling. The White House taking aim at the earlier decision.
There is an effort by this administration to tackle these rogue judges.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt calling the ruling judicial overreach.
The courts should have no role here. There is a troubling and dangerous trend of unelected judges inserting themselves into the presidential decision-making process. But ultimately, the Supreme Court must put an end to this.
I'm Reed Binion reporting.
Closer to home, a man on death row for the murder of a Northeast Nebraska native is staying there. The Nebraska Supreme Court Friday issued a ruling denying a request for post-conviction relief for Aubrey Trail. Trail was sentenced to death in 2023, related to the 2017 murder of Sidney Loof in rural Saline County. Despite confessing to the crime, Trail appealed his conviction and later filed for relief. The district court denied his motion in large part due to the fact that it was filed over a year after his appeal was denied. The state's high court affirmed the district court's ruling on Friday. A co-defendant in the case, Bailey Boswell, is serving a sentence of life without parole. Well, for the last few years, economics students at the University of Nebraska have dropped into small cities all over the state, analyzing potential pathways toward making those places more economically viable. Well, this year, those students set their sights on Fairbury. Tim Hackett has more.
Earlier this semester, economics students from the University of Nebraska came to Fairbury's community building to learn firsthand about the strengths and weaknesses of this small city from some of its local experts in industry, politics, and business. And earlier this month, those students returned, presenting those same local leaders with their own research and conclusions. The students highlighted Fairbury's community involvement and historic preservation efforts as strengths, but stressed that economic stagnation and lack of supply of both affordable housing and a steady workforce are latent threats. All things many of the people present agreed have been concerns locally for years.
Housing and childcare are two of the highest needs that come up on our community needs assessment all the time. So the results, I guess, weren't a surprise to me, but I do think finding a way to pull people back into our community and working with the youth and getting their input is going to be a huge impact on making a difference here.
We've got some wage gaps, but there's a lot of reasonable or high-paying jobs that are here. Somehow we don't seem to get that into the minds of the kids. They all want to move off and go somewhere else, where the fact of the matter is that you can make some significant money here, and it costs a lot less to live here than other places.
A critical part of this course was for the students to present some pathways Fairbury could follow to improve upon these identified issues, citing examples of successful solutions implemented recently in other small Nebraska towns like Ord, Shickley, and Pawnee City. But now it's up to Fairbury itself to consider if and how to potentially execute and fund those solutions.
I think most of the things they suggested are going to take a lot of money. So I think grants are the way to go. I believe that might be more challenging now than it was before, but we will see.
The capstone for this course was for the students to create a final project that would formally present their proposed pathways towards potential improvements. And with Nebraska's semester now finished, Fairbury's local leaders will be able to process those conclusions very soon. In Fairbury, Tim Hackett, News Channel, Nebraska.
In the capital city, the state legislature has passed a bill that significantly weakens a voter-backed measure requiring employers to offer paid sick leave. The Republican-led effort managed it with the help of one Democrat. The bill overcame a filibuster this week with a vote from Senator Jane Raybould, a Democrat from Lincoln. By a nearly 3-to-1 ratio, Nebraska voters in November approved a ballot measure that requires all Nebraska employers to provide at least some paid sick leave to their employees. But the bill passed this week and expected to be signed into law by Governor Jim Pillen carves out exceptions. It allows businesses to withhold paid sick leave from 14 and 15-year-olds and from temporary and seasonal agriculture workers. Businesses with 10 or fewer employees wouldn't need to provide paid sick leave at all. Raybould, the deciding vote, her family owns several grocery store chains in the state. She sponsored another bill that sought to restrict a voter-backed minimum wage law, but failed earlier this month to pass it, and her plan to attach it to the paid sick leave measure on Wednesday also failed. When someone's seriously injured in a remote area or needs specialized care from a faraway hospital, the fastest way to get them the care they need is through the air. Michael Shively introduces us to the crew of a medical helicopter.
For the past 25 years, these tones on the radio have signaled go time for Bill Jepson.
Roger, 12 understands O'Neill to Children's.
Jepson is the lead pilot for Lifenet in Norfolk. He flies a medical helicopter to transport patients from one hospital to another or from an emergency scene to a hospital.
We basically have a flying ER. The nurses and the paramedic have all the drugs. They can intubate. You can put a breathing tube down somebody if they need it. They can shock them if they have a heart attack. They've got all the medications and all the training to take care of that right there at the patient's side.
On Memorial Day, Lifenet marked a quarter century of operating in northeast Nebraska. Jepson has been there the whole time. Gary Murphy has flown for Lifenet for 7 years. They both understand they're responsible for the safety of everyone on the aircraft.
We have to account for different risk scenarios. How long has the crew been on duty? How many missions have we taken? What time of day it is, what the weather is.
The pilot generates a risk number for every flight and communicates with the Operational Control Center.
And they're going to look at it and say, hey, that's a medium to a high risk. And they may call and say, hey, what can we do to mitigate some of these things? Or they may turn me down.
And this is how we load the patient.
In 25 years, Lifenet Norfolk crews have flown 4 different types of aircraft for a total of more than 10,000 hours.
And then you just grab it and take this into the hospital.
But it's not just the pilot. Lifenet employs the paramedic and nurse on board as well.
These people have to be able to operate independently of having a doctor right there to bounce something off of. That's why they have all this extra training, and that's why they talk to each other all the time.
It's all done in close coordination with Faith Regional Health Services.
The hospital has been phenomenal to work with. I mean, a great partner. We couldn't have asked for anybody better.
It's a team effort that's resulted in countless lives saved.
I mean, that's what we do. We look at things and we're just trying to get somebody there so they can hopefully have a better tomorrow.
A goal the crew hopes to carry on for years to come. In Norfolk, Michael Shively, News Channel, Nebraska.
And finally, amid rising drug use and violence, the Rosebud Sioux tribe has declared a state of emergency on the reservation just north of the Nebraska border. Well, Casey Wannenberg recently visited the community where one grassroots effort is working to flip the narrative.
Welcome to Mission, the largest town on the Rosebud Reservation, just north of Valentine, Nebraska.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of things.
Dylan Two Eagle grew up in Mission, a town where sirens and struggle have become far too common. Amid the rising drug and violence crisis, the tribal president has now declared a state of emergency.
Thankfully, skateboarding kept my head on right, kept me in the right direction.
Two Eagle grew up shredding the streets, but now there's a full-blown skate park in town complete with bowls and ramps built not just for tricks, but for transformation.
It's like a different world once you're skateboarding. You know, you can put behind whatever other concerns might be bothering you or following you through your day.
Clay Shank is the force behind the ramps. He's the project manager of Rosebud Skate Park development and grew up in California.
Obviously, skateboarding is big in California. It's always been a big part of my life.
Shank started off filming documentaries about skateboarding, capturing some national attention for this film, 700 Miles. It chronicles his 700-mile skateboarding journey from California to Mexico.
In those travels and the filmmaking that I did, I was lucky enough to find a place where I felt like skateboarding would have a positive influence, and so that's how I shifted from filmmaking to park building. This is the next section of the park.
This is Shank's third skate park on the Rosebud Reservation. He's also built ramps in Antelope and Parmalee.
A lot of the things that people go looking for if they're getting into trouble with gangs or drunk driving or whatever it might be, you know, those urges can be satisfied in a low-risk way if you go skateboarding.
But the skate park isn't quite finished yet. The crew recently tore down a house that was sitting right here to make room for more ramps.
I think that's about 9-foot radius.
As Shank ramps up the effort to build his largest park yet, what gives him the most air is meeting new people.
Oh, you got it, bro. Just got to keep trying.
And hopefully changing lives in the process.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
You know, when you're working on landing a trick, you're very focused on that moment, and it's a very freeing thing that can help break people out of mental states that they might get stuck in.
Kids and adults come here to work on their skills.
Doing rock pickies and slashing.
But sometimes 10-year-old Keely and Ryan simply hits the park to hang out with friends.
I know his crush's name. Her name is... No, don't say nothing, right? No.
Meeting new friends and trying new tricks that will hopefully land a more positive community.
Yeah, we need a park like this to keep the kids out of trouble, keep them in school, to show them that there's a safe place, regardless of what they go through, to come here and relax and not worry about a thing.
Fewer worries, more board slides, and a whole lot of hope. In Mission, Casey Wannenberg, News Channel, Nebraska.
And you can stay up to date with the very latest by following us online. Head to newschannelnebraska.com and click on the News tab there. You can also follow us on X, like us on Facebook and Instagram as well. Thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend. This is News Channel Nebraska.